Hello, welcome to HITC Sport. Alright, so everyone seems to be saying these days that they have the worst owner in football. So what I'm going to do is take a look at every Premier League team, grade their football owner, and sort of see what state their club was in before he took over. Arsenal, Stan Kroenke, D-.
Do you know who the biggest fucking problem is? Stan fucking Kroenke. He's over in America now. I bet he don't even know the fucking result.
Kroenke don't give a fuck. Kroenke don't give a shit, blood. He's a liar, blood. He's the biggest fraud out of all of them, blood, yeah?
Right, so clearly the Arsenal fans can't get enough of Stan Kroenke right now. The 71-year-old American has a net worth of $8.5 billion and owns a bunch of other sports teams, including Tim Howard's Colorado Rapids. He's been at Arsenal since April 2007, but he had to wait 4 years to complete his takeover. They were stuck in 4th that season. Is it any surprise the club have made zero progress since then, except a few FA Cups, when the lad sits at home on his Missouri ranch with a pint in hand and a bank account sealed more tightly than a nun's vagina?
Stan Kroenke, I didn't buy Arsenal to win trophies.
Yeah, for Arsenal fans, reading that was probably about as much fun as digesting a toothbrush. For the last decade, this man has spent his time selling their best players and forcing Wenger to look for replacements down the local rubbish dump. Bournemouth, Maxim Demin, A+. So how many of you have ever heard of Maxim Demin? Not surprising, considering the man has never spoken a word of English to the media, and he doesn't even turn up to games because he's too scared he'll jinx the team. He bought the club in November 2011 for no other reason than the chairman had built his house. They were a mid-table League One side, travelling to the likes of Yeovil Town, Chesterfield and Carlisle United. Considering they're now in their 4th consecutive season on top flight and regularly chuck 20 million at players, the Bournemouth fans should probably be queuing up to kiss this man's feet. Not my feet though, Jesus Christ, that shit would get you demonetised. Brighton, Tony Bloom, A. So how many football owners do you know make their money from online poker? When middle-aged Tony Bloom took over his boyhood club in 2009, buying out Dick Knight, that's a silly name, for 93 million, the club were 16th in League One. Less than a decade later, and they're comfortably battling it out in the top flight. So he must have done something right. Burnley, Mike Garlick, A. When Mike Garlick took over Burnley in May 2012, they just finished 13th in the championship under Eddie Howe. Although, to be honest, it wasn't a bad squad. One of Garlick's first actions was to appoint Sean Dyche, and despite sounding like he has a lawnmower wedged in his throat, it's turned out to be the best decision he's ever made. Cardiff City, Vincent Tan, C+. So what's public opinion on Vincent Tan like? Probably that he's a nutcase that looks as though he's just jumped off the set of a James Bond movie. The man is a Malaysian billionaire who seems to be collecting football clubs like Russell Brand does STDs. He owns FK Sarajevo, KV Kortrijk and co-owns LA Galaxy. But when Tan took over Cardiff in May 2010, they just lost the playoff final to Blackpool 2 days earlier. Maybe he was just watching the game on Sky and thinking, I know what I'll do, I'll invest in a team which just got run ragged by Gary Taylor-Fletcher. That'll end well. Tan is just a strange old fish, as typified by his insistence on wearing trousers just below his armpits. He appointed Malky Mackay, changed the colour of their kit from blue to a lucky red. Can't have been that lucky when they finished 19th in the league. He even suggested changing the crest from a bluebird to a dragon. In October 2013, he drives out managing director Ian Moody, and in his place he appoints the Kazakhstani kid who was only at the club on work experience. He's just insane. Within a few weeks he was sacking the manager too. By this stage, Cardiff fans were screaming for his head, turning up to games with
Tan out!
a sign that would normally cause an outbreak of panic in the Phil Brown household. But Tan seems to have copped onto himself lately. He's reduced the debt, pumped in money, and he's seeing them promoted again. Chelsea, Roman Abramovich, A+. So where would Chelsea fans be without Roman Abramovich? Probably queuing for tickets down the fucking Etihad. Just kidding, Chelsea fans. Please don't mail me chunks of dog feces. When he bought the club from Ken Bates in June 2003, the fans probably spent that summer shooting into a Kleenex. The club had debts of £80 million and had just scraped a top 4 finish on the final day of the season. Priced above. If Roman hadn't existed, or had just bought Spurs instead, Chelsea could well have been playing Leyton Orient by 2007. Although while he's brought success, the man is all the restraint of a Catholic priest, sacking the manager whenever he gets a damn cold. Crystal Palace, Palace holds LP. C. Steve Parish only has an 18% stake after this new American consortium swooped in with a 100 million takeover in December 2015. At the time they were sitting 6th in the league, and then everyone remembered Alan Pardew was in charge and they only won 2 of the next 21 games, plummeting to 15th. Everton, Farhad Moshiri, B. Farhad Moshiri is an Iranian businessman who actually spent 10 years stuck in the Arsenal boardroom. Then he sold his shares and bought 50% of Everton in February 2016, with Everton halfway down the league and with Roberto Martinez in charge. The man is worth $1.7 billion, and he certainly put his money where his mouth is. Fulham, Shahid Khan, C+. We all know about Shahid Khan. He's the tulip who tried to buy Wembley for 600 million. When he bought Fulham in July 2016,
Christ above!
it made for one of the most awkward photographs in footballing history, with the lad clearly finding Mohammed Al Fayed's attempts at mockery about as funny as a Keane Toomey skit. Burn it with fire. He's the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's worth $7 billion. Anyway, when he took over the club, they were actually a mid-table stable Premier League club. 12 months later, they were relegated. To be fair though, he's just spent 100 million on transfers this summer, so at least his heart is in the right place. Huddersfield, Dean Hoyle, A+. Dean Hoyle is literally living the dream. This is an ordinary lifelong Huddersfield fan who got rich after opening a card factory with his wife, then bought the club in April 2008 when they were stuck in League One, getting beat off Gillingham and Hartlepool in front of 3,000 fans. Since then, they've been promoted twice and are in their second season of top flight football. Leicester City, Vishai Shrivadanabraba, A.
Billionaire owner will spend 180 million to make top 5 within 3 years.
I remember when I read that in 2014, you know, back when the Leicester squad was filled with David Nugent, Paul Konchesky, and a lad who looks like he spent the last week sleeping in a ditch, and thinking that the Leicester fans should probably be wheeled off to the goddamn nut house. 2 years later, they win the league. When Vishai Shrivadanabraba, Christ above, you'd almost need to remove your tongue to pronounce that, took over in August 2010, Leicester City had just finished 5th the previous season, losing in the playoffs to Cardiff. If you think Shrivadanabraba is just this nice old fellow who sits with the fans, prints off 30,000 Jamie Vardy masks, how f***ing weird was that, and celebrates his birthday by giving the fans a free beer, or water for the dry shites, then you'd be wrong. This fella has also sacked 5 managers in his tenure, including the man who kept them up, and the guy who won them the league. To be fair, Nigel Pearson did leave after his son and a bunch of Leicester nobodies filmed themselves in a racist orgy with a bunch of Thai girls. The men who pay your wages are literally from Thailand. How stupid can you get? Liverpool, Fenway Sports Group, C. So what was Liverpool's ownership like before FSG came along? It was probably like being raised by 2 parents who absolutely despise each other.
Just go. Shift.
As soon as.
It's time to clear off.
Get out of our club. Tom Hicks, you must leave now.
I want Hicks to get out of our club.
Leave our club.
Get out of our club.
You need to leave our city.
Go.
I want you out.
Please go. Have the decency to get out now. Just walk away. Get out.
Get out.
Walk away. The sooner, the better.
And unless we get rid of Hicks and Gillette, Liverpool Football Club has no future.
Oh, fuck me. Your lady friend got a voice.
Please get out of our club.
We want you out now.
Sod off!
You're toxic. You're two-hatted. Get out of our club.
Liverpudlians worldwide want our club back!
That's a fellow who looks like he has problems satisfying his wife. Anyway, when FSG took over, the club were stuck in the relegation zone with Roy Hodgson in charge. FSG have their critics, but you can't argue that Liverpool have definitely improved on the pitch. Man City, Sheikh Mansour, A+. So where were Man City before Sheikh Mansour take over? Conceding 8 at the Riverside. The club were in an absolute mess. They just lost 9 games since the new year. I mean, is anyone surprised when you're relying on Darius Vassell up front? Sven-Göran Eriksson had just been sacked, and their owner, Thaksin Shinawatra, was on the run from the Thai government, with its 800 million fortune frozen in a bank account, and his wife having been sentenced to 3 years in jail for unpaid taxes. The club had spent the summer embarrassing themselves by fruitlessly trying to sign Ronaldinho for some reason. Avram Grant had more chance of winning Miss Bikini Israel. Man United, the Glazers, E. You won't find many football owners who are more hated than the Glazer family. It speaks volumes that when the main man popped his cogs a few years ago, not one person really batted an eyelid. The Glazers made their money out of real estate and bought the club in 2003, Man United having just pipped Arsenal to the title. Now you might think, what's the problem? Since then they've won 5 more league titles, 2 FA Cups, 4 League Cups and a Champions League. Clearly the Glazers are a great bunch of lads. No, most of that was down to Sir Alex Ferguson and the wealth that the club generates for itself, because the Glazers don't invest anything. Instead they've leached over $1 billion out of the club. I mean, there's been talk of a takeover, but I mean, if the Saudis do buy the club, don't be surprised if Neil Custis goes missing. Newcastle, Mike Ashley, F. Alright, look, Mike Ashley took over Newcastle in June 2007. Newcastle fans were practically dancing in the streets. This promised a new era. Here was a lad who wore the Toon strip. He was downing a beer with the fans. What could go wrong?
Everything.
We're 11 years later and the club is probably going to get relegated for a 3rd time under his tenure. When he took over, the club were 13th, had just reached the UEFA Cup last 16 and had a squad filled with Damien Duff, Mike Lowen and Obafemi Martins. Let's just ignore Antoine Sibierski and Titus Bramble. At the time, that was considered a dark period for Newcastle. Nowadays, the fans are practically getting ready to shovel their eyes out with a rusty fork to watch Hoslu struggle to control the football 1 second longer. Like, I don't get it. If you own a football club, just spend money. It's like deciding to have a bunch of kids and then just refusing to buy them food. Southampton, Jishengao, D. So Jishengao has only been at Southampton for about 5 minutes, having spent 210 million to buy an 80% stake in August 2017. At the time they had just sacked a man for finishing 8th and reaching cup final. They appointed Pellegrino, had to beg Mark Hughes to come in and save them and finish 17th. Tottenham, Joe Lewis, B. Oh, what was that? You thought Daniel Levy owned Spurs? No. No. Well, yes he does, but Joe Lewis owns the mower. The East End billionaire who barely turns up to games, instead choosing to spend his time downing whiskey on his Caribbean yacht. He has a fortune of £4.5 billion, meaning this fella is the 5th richest man in the UK. Anyway, in December 2000, he bought them from Alan Sugar. At the time, Spurs were on their way to finishing 12th in the league, with Glenn Hoddle in charge. You remember him? He was the fellow who thought disabled people were being punished for misdeeds in a former life. By that logic, he must have thought Stephen Hawking used to be a paedophile. Watford, Gino Pozzo B. Alongside his father, Gino Pozzo bought Watford in June 2012, with the club 11th in the league under Sean Dyche. A year later, they were in the playoff final. 1 year after that, they were in the Premier League. My only criticism would be, I don't think he's ruthless enough. He's only sacked 7 managers. West Ham, Sullivan and Gold, F.
Come on, Gold. What's this shit? Come on.
Stand, I'm hurting as much as
Come on. Leave the bloke alone. Come on.
I'm 82 years of age.
David, leave the bloke alone. Fuck off. Just leave the club. Leave the fucking club.
Although I do love how at the start he says, I'm hurting just as much as you. Dressed in a 3-piece suit and stepping out of a Rolls Royce. And with his own personalised number plate.
I'm not coming to watch West Ham as long as Gold and Sullivan are in charge of West Ham. You know, I'm never not going to come West Ham, am I?
When they arrived in January 2010, beating off bids from Tony Fernandes and Massimo Cellino, remember that lunatic who tried to burn Leeds to the fucking ground? West Ham were clinging to safety by their fingertips. They have made a lot of bad decisions at this club. Dragging the club kicking and screaming from Upton Park into a soulless goldfish bowl, which has about as much atmosphere as my great aunt's funeral. Oh, for some reason, they keep hiring people who've made a specialty out of going down. No doubt a habit they picked up from 40 years in the fucking porn industry. Wolves, Fosun Group, A. In July 2016, they bought off Steve Morgan for 45 million. That's less than Gylfi Sigurdsson, by the way. And have since plunged their money into the club, signing half the Portuguese team and taking them from 14th in the championship, sailing into the top flight. Anyway, that's the end of the video, lads. What do you think? Let me know. Who do you think is the worst owner in the Premier League? And yeah, give me your reasons why. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'll talk to you in a while.